Police officer pushes a little girl with cerebral palsy, not knowing her mother is a human rights activist. Sarah carefully adjusted her leg braces, the metal cool against her skin. At only 7, she was accustomed to stares, whispers, and the small struggles that came with cerebral palsy. Her mother, Lena, knelt beside her, smoothing down her hair. Lena's warm gaze was full of pride, but also steely determination. Lena was more than just a mother, she was a fierce advocate for those like Sarah, fighting tirelessly for accessibility and inclusion. Today was supposed to be a simple outing to the park. But for Lena, every venture into public spaces was a silent battle. She saw every cracked sidewalk, every narrow entrance as a reminder of how much work was left to do. Sarah, though, only wanted to swing, slide, and feel the thrill of the playground. As they moved toward the park, Lena caught a glimpse of a police officer monitoring the area. Sarah's eyes lit up, and she tugged at her mother's hand, eager to reach the playground. Lena's heart softened. Today would be about fun, she resolved, casting her worries aside, just for a little while. They hadn't even reached the swings when it happened. The officer, young and distracted, glanced in their direction, visibly annoyed by the crowd. He muttered under his breath, "Move along," stepping into Sarah's path. Sarah stumbled, her balance already tenuous on her braces. With an impatient huff, the officer reached out and pushed her aside, his hand pressing against her shoulder. Sarah gasped, the sudden movement causing her to stumble backward into Lena's arms. Lena felt her body tense. She glared at the officer, whose dismissive expression revealed he hadn't even registered Sarah as a young girl with a disability. "Excuse me?" Lena's voice was icy, laced with outrage, but the officer brushed her off with a wave of his hand. The moment hung heavy in the air, a fuse waiting to be lit. Lena's hands gripped Sarah's shoulders, steadying her, while anger surged through her veins. She stepped toward the officer, her voice rising. "Do you realize what you just did?" Her voice was controlled but fierce, every word a testament to her conviction. The officer barely looked up. "Just clearing the way, ma'am," he replied, indifferent. Lena's rage flared, ignited by years of fighting battles for others like her daughter. She could feel bystanders pausing, sensing the tension. She wanted to scream, but instead, her voice turned cold. "You shoved a little girl with cerebral palsy. A child who deserves respect, not dismissal." Her words were a challenge, but the officer only scoffed. "Lady, I don't have time for this," he muttered, turning away. It was this indifference, this blatant disregard, that broke something within Lena. A small crowd had formed, murmuring in dismay and disbelief. Unbeknownst to Lena, one bystander had already started recording. The camera captured Lena's sharp words, Sarah's look of confusion, and the officer's dismissive gestures. By the time Lena led Sarah away, the video had already been posted online. Within hours, it spread across social media like wildfire. The comments were a mix of support and outrage, a virtual battleground of opinions. "This is unacceptable," one comment read. "She's a mother standing up for her child," said another. But there were also those who dismissed the situation as another overreaction. Lena was unaware of the digital storm brewing as she sat with Sarah, trying to explain why the world could sometimes be cruel. For her, this was a personal battle, but soon, it would be much bigger. By the next morning, Lena's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Journalists, bloggers, and even some major news outlets were reaching out for statements. Her social media feeds were flooded with messages of support and criticism. Headlines ran with titles like, "Mother of Child with Cerebral Palsy Confronts Police," and "Officer Shoves Disabled Child, A Mother's Fight for Justice." Lena sat on the edge of her bed, overwhelmed. She knew this was an opportunity to bring attention to accessibility and respect for those with disabilities, but she also feared for Sarah. Her daughter was only 7, and Lena didn't want her innocence tainted by public scrutiny. Yet, as she glanced at Sarah's quiet resilience, Lena knew she couldn't let this moment slip away. By afternoon, she accepted an invitation to appear on a talk show. Sitting in the studio, she shared her experience, her voice calm yet full of conviction. "This isn't just about Sarah," she told the interviewer. "It's about every child who deserves to be treated with dignity." Her words echoed across screens nationwide, and the story was far from over. The talk show appearance sparked a fierce public debate. Supporters praised Lena for standing up for her daughter and shedding light on accessibility issues. Comments and messages poured in from other parents facing similar challenges. For many, Lena became a symbol of strength and resilience. But not everyone was supportive. Some claimed she was overreacting, labeling the incident as a misunderstanding. Others insisted that Lena was exploiting her daughter for attention. It hurt Lena to see these comments, but she knew the importance of the fight. She kept her focus on the positive. Messages from other parents, activists, and people with disabilities bolstered her resolve. "Thank you for speaking up," one message read. "I've felt invisible for so long." Lena saw that this battle wasn't just hers, it was a shared struggle. The police department soon released a statement, describing the incident as a regrettable misunderstanding, but stopped short of offering a public apology. Instead, they defended the officers' actions, framing them as a necessary step to maintain order. Lena was furious but unsurprised. The backlash grew louder. Several public figures joined the conversation, pressuring the department to hold the officer accountable. However, there were no signs of an apology or change in their stance. Lena was faced with a choice: accept their response and move on, or take a more direct stand. She knew this decision would shape her path forward. It was daunting, but her drive to protect Sarah and advocate for change was stronger than her fear of institutional retaliation. In moments of doubt, Lena often remembered the struggles that had shaped her journey. Years before Sarah was born, Lena had been active in various human rights causes. Accessibility, however, became a personal mission after her daughter's diagnosis. Lena had dedicated herself to advocating for the rights of those with disabilities, challenging her city's outdated policies and pushing for accessible spaces. Sarah's condition had only deepened Lena's commitment. She wanted a world where her daughter wouldn't face the same barriers she had seen countless others encounter. This wasn't her first battle, but it was certainly the most personal. The memory of her past battles gave Lena the courage to take on this new fight, no matter the odds. While Lena was occupied with media and legal preparations, she began noticing small changes in Sarah. Her daughter, once so eager to explore, was suddenly hesitant to leave the house. She clung to Lena's hand in public, her usual spark dimmed by fear and confusion. Lena's heart ached as she realized the impact the incident had had on her daughter. It wasn't just physical. Sarah was now wary of strangers, especially authority figures. She avoided looking at police officers, even shying away when she saw uniforms on TV. One evening, Lena sat Sarah down, speaking to her softly. "You're so brave, you know that," she whispered, brushing a tear from her daughter's cheek. Sarah nodded, but Lena knew it would take time to heal these invisible wounds. Determined to hold the officer accountable, Lena decided to take legal action. She reached out to a lawyer who specialized in civil rights cases, and together, they filed a complaint against the police department. The media quickly picked up the story, and the case gained even more traction. But the legal battle was daunting. The police department's legal team was well prepared, painting Lena's actions as unnecessary dramatics. Lena's lawyer advised her that the case would be long and emotionally taxing. Lena prepared herself for the grueling process, knowing that she was fighting for more than just an apology. For Sarah, for every child like her, and for every parent who wanted a world free of prejudice, Lena knew she had to see this through. As the trial date approached, Lena was met with an outpouring of support from her community. Activists, parents, and local organizations gathered, some even organizing rallies in solidarity with her and Sarah. Signs bearing slogans like "Respect for All" and "No Child Left Behind" filled the streets, showing the power of community solidarity. Sarah was overwhelmed but touched by the sight of so many people supporting her. Lena felt a surge of hope, seeing how their story had inspired a movement. She realized that this fight wasn't hers alone, it belonged to everyone who had ever felt marginalized or unseen. One evening, Lena received a message from a surprising source, a former police officer who had witnessed similar behavior during his time in the force. He expressed remorse for not speaking up in the past and offered to testify on her behalf. The former officer shared stories of the department's culture, detailing how insensitivity was often ignored or even encouraged. His testimony would be a powerful addition to Lena's case, shedding light on the systemic issues within the police force. Lena felt a renewed sense of determination. With allies like him, the truth would be harder to ignore. The trial was intense, with both sides presenting their arguments. Lena sat in the courtroom, holding Sarah's hand, feeling the weight of every testimony and cross-examination. Her lawyer argued that the officer's actions were not only disrespectful but part of a larger issue of neglect toward people with disabilities. The former officer's testimony was a turning point, highlighting the department's lack of accountability. As Lena listened, she felt her anger and pain give way to hope. This was more than a case, it was a chance to ignite real change. After days of deliberation, the court finally reached a verdict. The judge ruled in Lena's favor, ordering the police department to issue a public apology and implement sensitivity training for all officers. Lena felt a rush of relief, a victory not only for Sarah but for everyone who had supported their cause. The victory, however, was bittersweet. Lena reflected on the battle she had fought and the changes still needed. She knew that while they had won this case, there were countless other battles ahead. But now, she felt ready to take them on, strengthened by her experience and the resilience she had seen in her daughter. With the case behind them, Lena and Sarah embarked on a new chapter. Lena continued her advocacy, this time with a focus on educating law enforcement and public institutions about accessibility and respect. Sarah, slowly regaining her confidence, became her mother's inspiration, often joining her at events and speaking bravely about her experiences. Together, they created a foundation dedicated to promoting inclusivity and accessibility. The foundation's motto, "Dignity for All," served as a reminder of their journey, a journey of resilience, courage, and a mother's undying love for her daughter. And as they looked to the future, Lena knew that this was just the beginning. Thank you all for joining us on this heartfelt journey of resilience, courage, and advocacy. Lena and Sarah's story reminds us of the power of standing up for what's right and the incredible impact of a mother's love in the face of adversity. If you found this story inspiring, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends and family, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more stories that spotlight courage, compassion, and the drive for change. Together, we can raise awareness and continue making a difference. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next story.